Arizona basketball smashes ASU, and Arizona gets a lot of really, really good juju out of that game. We're going to get to all of that and more here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. Happy Friday, everyone. This show is brought to you by Nissan. I just got a new Nissan, so if you want to be cool like me, get a Nissan, or if you don't want to be cool, still get a Nissan. All right, Arizona beats ASU, and they did it in resounding fashion. We're kind of at the point now with Arizona basketball where, everybody knows what this team is capable of, that this is a team that can absolutely go deep in March, or this is a team that can probably get bounced in the second game. I tend to believe that this team is going to go deep for a variety of reasons, but first and foremost, it starts with Kylin Boswell. Man, was Kylin Boswell good in that game. Kylin Boswell was absolutely fantastic. And not only was Kylin Boswell fantastic, this is what Arizona needed from him. He was shooting the three with confidence. He was getting into the paint. He was finishing around the basket. And not only was he finishing around the basket, he was also getting in there and just making plays, just being a difference maker. And I think that's something that was, that's been missing from him, honestly. And, listen, he's been beat up a lot. I've probably been a little bit too hard on him as well, but he's got a lot of talent. We've seen that. We know that. I mean, this is a guy, and I'm going to keep coming back to, this is a guy against Duke that was the best player on the court. And not only was he the best player on the court, he was clearly there were times when he was just taking over. And obviously, Duke is a good basketball team. And then you saw last year. Now, granted, some of it was that, he was coming in and he was shooting 3-point shots. I get all that. But he was still really, really good at what he was doing. And again, when you're a five-star kid, it wasn't like he just became that five-star kid for absolutely no reason. There is a lot to like about what he can do. Now, when he plays like that, Arizona is an absolute nightmare for anybody because all of the pieces start to come into play at that point. And not only do all the pieces start to come into play at that point, it also starts to you start to see a roster constructed that is really, really good and is quite frankly problems for a lot of different teams. And that starts with Kylin Boswell. Going into the year, I think a lot of people were like, all right, well, he's going to be a one and done, one and done. What say you? And that, all right, two and done, excuse me. That didn't really occur. But it's also not too late. I mean, listen, as we all know, it's a kind of a cliche, but he should be a freshman this year. So again, a lot of that is learning. And I think Tommy Lloyd has really lit into him at times. Tommy Lloyd has really got on him. And not only has he really got on him, he's kind of, he's basically been like, all right, man, you got to start playing good basketball because and like you said, I'm getting on you because I know what you're capable of. And that's something that I think with Kylin Boswell, it's just, you got to continue to see it. But man, was that good to see out there. And not only was it good to see, his teammates were all behind him. His teammates were rallying behind him. And everybody there was just good vibes all the way around. And it started out early. And honestly, from an offensive perspective, he's a really talented guy. The shot, the form always looks good. He's just got to shoot it with confidence, and he can get by people. He can get to the hoop. He can finish in traffic. He can do a lot of different things. So again, Boswell, that was huge, and that was a difference maker. I mean, I've been saying for a while now, you don't even need Kylin Boswell to necessarily be you don't necessarily need Kylin Boswell to be an All-American type, but be just kind of that fringe all-conference player. And that's exactly what he showed. That there were very few point guards in the conference, if any, that were better than the Kylin Boswell that we saw last night. And not only were they better, not only are there very few, he's also somebody that's was a difference maker. And Arizona needs that. And, kind of sticking with that point guard spot, Jaden Bradley was absolutely fantastic. Not only was Bradley fantastic, he kind of is starting to give you a little bit of those Jason Terry type vibes where, getting into, coming in, making plays off the bounce. Not only making plays off the bounce, but just defensively, just being a pest. And it was just a very wholesome performance from this Arizona basketball team. And it started at that point guard spot because both of them played their games to a T. I believe that Jaden Bradley is going to play in the NBA. I really do. I believe that he is going to be the player that sooner or later you're going to watch and be like, man, remember when he was struggling on offense at the U of A, or people were wondering, could this guy really do it from an offensive perspective? Because defensively, man, he is an absolute monster. He's got some of the quickest hands I've seen. In transition, how many times have you seen him stop a transition break by slapping the ball loose or, making a play? He's just, again, he's got a real knack for the game and for understanding what he needs to do. And it's something to behold. It's something to really enjoy watching because these two guys have, they've been through a lot. They came in here as 5-star point guards, but from a skill perspective, you can see what they were capable of. And I think this was probably the game for both of them where you really kind of emerged and said, man, when these guys are playing at their apex, these dudes are really, really good. And not only are they really good, they're also, they're kind of next level type good. I mean, they both feel like they're kind of NBA type players and at some stage. And again, you just kind of see why they were built in the manner in which they were. And it's just going to be exciting to see if they can continue this one going forward. I believe they are going to be able to continue this going forward because the confidence level is there. Obviously, Tommy Lloyd has spent a lot of time with each of them, and you can just tell that, they complement each other well. The term Bradwell, I think, is actually a very good term for both of them. That's what we're going to call the point guard position from now on, Bradwell. But man, Arizona gets those. There's no team in the country that Arizona goes into that is favored over Arizona if you get contributions like that from the point guard spot. Truly a special endeavor by both of them. And like I said, it was just cool to watch because they were both feeding off each other. The crowd was feeding off of it up in ASU, no less, which is very funny. But overall, just a very, very impressive performance by this squad. And those dudes were those guys were at the absolute top of that. Now, everybody ate in this game. Everybody played well. And we're going to go top to bottom down the roster and just talk about what it was. But you also saw the difference too in what a really good coach looks like as opposed to what ASU. And we're going to break that down a little bit. But first, Nissan. All right, I can actually speak to Nissan. Go find your next big adventure. Shop at nissanusa.com. All right, with Nissan, it is a cool little thing because I just got a Nissan. I just got a Nissan Altima, and I love it. The gas mileage on it is fantastic. Not only is the gas mileage on it fantastic, I can get where I want, when I want, and it's kind of a sleek little ride. Again, I'm happy with it. I'm super happy with it, honestly. They're very affordable. Check it out, Nissan. Shop Nissan at nissanusa.com. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now we are going to talk a little bit of, let's talk a little Tommy Lloyd, Bobby Hurley, and then kind of move around a little bit. First, you saw the difference of what a good coach is. With Tommy Lloyd, Tommy Lloyd's a good basketball coach, obviously. And with Arizona, he lets them go, but there's still a structure. There's still a little bit of a method to their madness in that you can't just kind of run around with like a chicken with your head cut off and, essentially just do what you want when you want. That doesn't work under Tommy Lloyd. That works under Bobby Hurley. That does not work under Tommy Lloyd. And you see the difference. Listen, Bobby Hurley's guys all joking aside, play very hard for him. And that's definitely a gift. That's definitely something where, they want to go to battle for their coach for sure. But you also see a lack of any form of substance that, they kind of just go as the wind blows. There's really no offensive structure. Sure, when they get going, when players start making plays, sure, it looks pretty good. But overall, there's really no offensive structure. And I think that that's something that, if you're an ASU fan, you're a little confounded by, because Bobby Hurley was one of the smartest point guards that's ever stepped foot on the face of a basketball court, on the college basketball court. The NCAA assist leader. I mean, just a two-time national champion, just one of the all-time great college basketball players ever. But you watch his teams out there, and they don't manifest that at all. As a matter of fact, you kind of wonder, how in the world again were these guys? Was this guy? Because it doesn't really make sense. Lloyd, I think, has kind of the perfect strategy in that he's going to let you go, but there will be, if you don't play within the confines of the system, you're going to be benched, or just a lot of different things. But you can understand why players would want to play for Tommy Lloyd. You could also understand, honestly, why players would want to play for Bobby Hurley. But the problem is, with Bobby Hurley, you're really not getting any coaching. You're essentially just being run out there, and hey, everybody, you get a man, you get a man, you get a man, you get a man, you get a man type defense. And that's not going to really work. And, like I was joking with some people before, because ASU's got a few pretty good players on that team. If you were to give that roster to Tommy Lloyd, I think they're probably a fringe tournament team as opposed to being 14 and 15. I mean, I think they would have that kind of potential with a coach that kind of knew what he was doing, but they don't have that coach, and that obviously is not our fault. But either way, you just saw kind of the difference on hand between both of those coaches, and it was quite glaring. I'll put it to you like that. I think glaring is probably the right term to use. Now, getting back to the roster, though, talking Caleb Love now, and then we'll get to Pella in just a second. But Caleb Love, man, I mean, Caleb Love was what, the Caleb Love experience was on full display. I don't even know that Caleb Love necessarily played a great game, although he did get 8 rebounds, 5 assists, which snuck up on me. I had no clue that he got those. But he also was, he was also just kind of, it felt like the shot was a little bit off. He had a couple air balls, probably a couple ill-forced shots. But, man, down the stretch, when Arizona needed a couple buckets to really be able to seal that game away, Caleb Love did what Caleb Love does, and that is absolutely rise to the moment. And again, he's a guy that it doesn't really matter whether he's playing well, whether he's playing or whatever the case may be. That next shot, you can kind of tell that he thinks that ball is going in, and there's a good reason for it, because it probably is going in. Just a very unique player. I'm not sure that I've seen anybody here at the U of A that I can really quite compare his game to. Just kind of a next level type feel to him. But again, a really, really good player, and somebody that Arizona, again, just didn't have last year. Kind of that real alpha, and you saw that again against ASU, and that, all right, maybe not shooting the best, whatever the case may be, but man, those 2 threes down the stretch were huge. And you could tell that, well, like with every shot, he believes it's going in, but that's also a skill. That's also a trait. There are some people that just don't, necessarily have that in them. And he's got that in him. And not only does he have it in him, Arizona's going to need that come March, because Arizona didn't have anybody like that last year. So that was good. And then Pella Larson, I'd like my call for Pella is this. I need Pella to be even more aggressive. If you got an open 3, shoot it. Now, you can definitely tell that Tommy Lloyd probably talked to him about, hey man, if you're open for the 3, shoot it, because he was letting the thing fly from as opposed to kind of being hesitant, kind of, backing around. He was letting that shot fly, and it was cool to see, because a lot of times he is, he's somebody that can be a little bit more passive. I think that he's somewhat of he's more of a, how do I put this? A little bit more maybe of a passive personality, but when he's playing aggressive, that's when he starts getting to the basket. That's when he starts getting and ones, and he's a pretty gifted passer as well. So, again, there's a lot of different aspects to like about his game, but I think a big part of his thing is just being aggressive. And, we kind of joke about that, but that's kind of the way it is with Caleb Love to a certain degree as well. Just be aggressive. If you're aggressive, then, the rest will fall where it does. And Pella is that dude, like I said. And when he's playing well defensively, when he's finishing around the hoop. But again, they're going to need him to shoot to make those wide open threes. When he makes those wide open threes, he is a problem. And not only is he a problem, he's somebody that possibly has NBA potential. Again, I don't know that I necessarily see that, but I watch it though, and I don't know that that's out of the realm of possibility either. But that perimeter with those four, with those three guys, and then KJ Lewis, again, everybody ate, everybody got healthy. Again, with KJ, my whole thing with KJ is I just needed, I think there's going to be times when Arizona is going to close out a game and KJ Lewis is going to be out on the court because he's physical, he's athletic, and he can really finish in traffic. He's dynamic finishing on the break. Arizona's going to need that. And not only is Arizona going to need that, Arizona's going to probably need that early in the tournament. Arizona needs KJ Lewis playing well. And not only do they need KJ Lewis playing well, they need him to be somebody who kind of really takes on a little bit of an ownership of that role. And if he does that, then Arizona is going to be in really, really good shape because, like I said, there is a lot to like about his game. I believe he's going to be a lottery pick next year. I believe that he's got that type of upside. And not only do I believe that he's got that type of upside, I believe that he is also someone who, let's just call it the way it is. Probably going to be gone after next year, but Arizona needs him, and Arizona needs him in a big way because there isn't really anybody else quite like him on the roster. But those are your four perimeter guys, and they all look good. Like I said, keep in mind, you need Arizona. If you're an Arizona fan, you need all four of those players because all of those guys could be on the floor in crunch time, especially with some of the foul shooting problems that Oumar Ballo has, and Mount Crevis probably not just are ready quite at this point. All four of those dudes are going to be out there on the court. Now we're going to talk about what the front court did because there was more good out of that as well. But first, FanDuel. All right, now we've got this is the best time of the year to be getting in on sports. Check it out. New customers, you can put down $5, you get 200. That's simple, that easy. FanDuel.com/locked on. All right, with FanDuel, it's awesome because, listen, football's over, but basketball's here. And even if your team isn't playing, guess what's more enjoyable? Betting on a game when your team is playing. That is fun. That is enticing. Check it out. FanDuel.com/locked on. You will, again, thank me later for this one. But, again, all kinds of good stuff. Plus, your money's good. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk about the big up front a little bit. All right, Keyshawn Johnson. Arizona's going to need Keyshawn Johnson to be a key going forward. Get it? A key. And the last couple of games, he's been good. Now, granted, it wasn't Washington good, but he's an energy guy. He should be flying around the court, blocking shots, getting rebounds, doing this, that, and the other. And so far, he has done that. And not only has he done that, he's been the dude who I think at this stage in the game is, you're going to need him in a big way. Like we've seen him against other teams where he's been one of the best players on the court and he's finished out games, whether that's Michigan State, whether that's Wisconsin. I mean, heck, against ASU, making free throws. He's also somebody that I think is going to be the big man when Arizona goes small because he has got a unique ability to be able to play against some bigger players and be able to make the kind of free throws that you need that I don't know that you necessarily feel comfortable with Oumar Ballo, leader of men, shooting. But either way, he's somebody that Arizona is going to need. And he's probably going to be a 33, 34 minute per game guy if Arizona is to go as far as they possibly can. So again, there's that, and it's kind of an impressive fact right there. It's an impressive little feat. And then Umar Ballo, we just got to have an appreciation thread for Umar Ballo, leader of men. Again, another 14-13 game. And he's looking a little bit more comfortable shooting his free throws. And not only is he looking a little bit more comfortable shooting his free throws, that is also going to give you a little bit of flexibility to be able to play him longer and tighter games. I don't know exactly what it was, but again, he looks a little bit more comfortable shooting his free throws. And Arizona is going to need that. And Arizona is going to need that in a big way. There aren't a lot of players in U of A history that have put up the numbers that he has and the double-doubles that he has, and they're just going to need him to continue. He's finishing around the hoop. He's getting rebounds. He's doing all kinds of good stuff. So, again, check it out. Umar Ballo, leader of men, has been very, very good for Arizona, and if he were to come back next year, I think that he would be very, very impressed, or Arizona fans would be much better for the wear for him because – again, he just does a lot of good things, and he's playing better. He's gotten into better shape, it appears. Just a very good basketball player for the U of A. And then after that, Mount Crevis. Listen, I think as the tournament goes on, Crevis's minutes are going to be somewhat limited. I think his impact is going to be more felt next year. But Mount Crevis so far is – he's exactly what you're kind of hoping for, and that he's got a little bit of he's got a hook, he got a turnaround. There's going to be a big offseason for him. But again, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need him this year, but I think his role will be somewhat limited. Probably in the tournament games, probably looking somewhere in that 7 to 9 minute range, 6 to 10. Depending, maybe give or take a couple minutes, depending on matchups. But Arizona is going to need him at some point. And when that point is, I don't know. But if Arizona is going to make a deep run come March, they're going to absolutely need him. And I think he'll be up for the test, but I think you're going to see a massive jump from him from his freshman to his sophomore year, as is the case many times with talented players. But that's kind of where you're at. This was a get-right game for Arizona across the board. Players playing well that needed to play well, and not only did the players play well that needed to play well, it also just were good vibes all the way around. And I think that's something as an Arizona fan you're excited about, something that you'd like to be able to see going forward. And I think you're just hoping that it can continue. Now, you got Oregon coming up. Oregon's an interesting team because N'Faly Dante is good. They've got good players. Jackson Shellstad is a good guard. And the Kuznard isn't bad, but they just feel disjointed. They don't feel like they ever really got a real rhythm in place. And this game is at McHale, so Arizona should be able to take care of business. And then you got the LA schools, and if Arizona beats those, I think you pretty much lock up a number 1 seed out west, or at the very least, you're going to be a number 2 seed out west. And listen, if you're a 1 or a 2 seed out west, I think everybody would have taken that going into the season. But either way, Arizona, it's more about Arizona at this point. You just got to keep running off these wins, running off these victories. You run off these wins, you run off these victories. Everything is going to look pretty good for the Wildcats. But again, on Monday, hopefully we're coming back talking about a nice little win against the Oregon Ducks. But on that front, though, I am, like I said, just super excited about everything that's going on with this team. And hopefully Arizona can just get this one to continue, because if they get this one to continue, this team can go very deep. Again, they're big, they're strong, they're physical. They've got all of that stuff. You just got to keep working at it. Now, on Monday, we're going to talk about hopefully an Arizona win over Oregon. And I promise you, we're going to get back into some Arizona football. We're really just kind of pressed right now because it's Arizona basketball season, and this team is really, really good, as you all know. But as always, very, very, very much appreciate you guys making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. All right, it's Friday. Everybody out there have a great, safe, and a very healthy, happy Friday. We will be back with you Monday. As always, bear down, back the A, and thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. That rhymes.